So now is the time to actually start installing the cabinets. And so this video is actually sponsored by cabinetselect.com. They've been really nice and provided me with the cabinets that I'm going to use for this cabin. They provide all sorts of cabinets, all sorts of colors, all sorts of styles. This is what I ended up picking, the Asheville Cinnamon. I really wanted to stay with something, kind of wood and rustic. And I know that it might be too much wood in this cabin, but I just cannot help it. I just like it too much. And another great thing is that they have all the sizes you can imagine. Whatever you'll need to, fit into your kitchen, you can find the right size. In my case, the kitchen is fairly simple. I'm going to need a 30-inch here, and then another 30-inch next to it where the sink is going to be, and then lastly, a really small 9-inch cabinet to kind of fill in that void. So these cabinets are called RTA. That stands for ready to assemble. So they're not like already pre-assembled, like you can find them in other stores. I mean, I guess that helps with making sure that they don't get damaged during, shipping. So you will still get all the pieces, and it will be kind of up to you to put it together. So I was kind of trying that for the first time. It was fairly straightforward. I mean, all the hardware is coming with it, and then, I mean, if you see what I'm doing, you'll see that it's pretty easy. You just assemble the piece together. You have little angles that are provided that you use to attach the different pieces together, and then yeah, you just assemble the bottom and then put the last piece, the back piece on it. I did find that using clamps to make sure that everything was going to be held properly and tight was super helpful, especially when you want to be able to move the cabinet so that I can get in there and install the last brackets to kind of attach it all together. So definitely recommend using several clamps if you can. So now moving on to assembling the drawers, because once again, because it's not assembled, you're gonna have to put everything together, including drawers. And you'll see that again, it is really not that bad, and anybody with like basic skills can do that. I think it was recommended that to use a little bit of wood glue to make sure that everything was going to eventually kind of glue itself together and hold better. So you can see that I'm really putting a lot of glue in the groove where the bottom of the drawer is going to be. And once again, you really want to hold everything tight together. And then I'm going to use a few fasteners to put it together. So I did use like some little screws that I had, but I mean, if you can find smaller diameter screws, I would recommend, because the challenge is you got to be very careful to not split the wood. I mean, I still did pre-drilling, but even with that, I felt that the screws were a little bit too big. The mechanism for the drawers will also be provided. And again, it's very simple. You kind of like put it in place. It will get screwed to the face of the cabinet, and then you will directly put your drawer on top of it. There's like little holes exactly where the drawers will be on the sliding mechanism. And then you can also, kind of add a screw to make sure that the drawer doesn't go anywhere. And that's pretty much it. I mean, the drawers were amazing. They kind of like the soft close mechanism. Last thing to put in place was some angle. So they provide you some angles that you can put at each corner of the cabinets. Again, that's just a way to reinforce the cabinet itself so that it doesn't rack or anything like that. And then lastly, obviously you're gonna have some shelves into the cabinet, so you have like little pins that you place, and then you can put your shelf in place. And then yeah, that's pretty much it. It's that simple. Oh wait, there's actually one last thing you need to do. I think that's what's called the toe kick, and so that's just a piece of wood that's going to get installed at the base of the cabinet, and eventually everything will be covered with trim when all the cabinets are installed. But that's again just to have something at the base there. After that, I did the exact same thing with the other two cabinets. The one I'm showing you now is the 9-inch white cabinet. I mean, it's exactly the same logic as what I did for the first one. And then it's the time to finally, well, place them against the wall and see how that's going to work out. So it's almost kind of like a dry fitting to some extent. I don't know if you really can say that about cabinets, but, just kind of putting them against the wall, seeing what's going to happen. Obviously, I'm going to have to keep in mind, what holes I'm going to have to make behind the cabinets to let all the plumbing and the water lines and some electrical wires to come through. Also, I'm actually going to put a little piece of trim against that small piece, and you'll see later why I did that, and now I'm going to attach it. I did find that using the oscillating tool was definitely the best way to go with making all those openings at the back of the cabinet. So the first one is going to be where a receptacle is placed, and then this one here is going to be for the sink, for the drain of the future sink, and then I have two smaller holes which will be for the hot lines and the cold water line. So yeah, and just make your holes. I mean, again, it's a matter of like making sure you're precisely measuring so that hopefully your holes will match where stuff will actually be. And then the last one on the other cabinet was just an electrical line that's going to feed into a cooktop. So let's go back to that piece of trim I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to put that against that cabinet, and I'm actually going to nail it with a brad nailer. And the reason for that is that I want to have a little bit of space between the actual cabinet and the wall itself, because if it's too close, I'm not going to be able to properly operate, the cabinet doors or the cabinet drawers. So now is the time to make sure that everything is level in both directions, because if it's not, then that's when you're going to have to, add shims here and there to make sure that your cabinets are level before you fasten them into the wall. So here are the screws that I'll be using to attach the cabinets. Those are just like GRK cabinet screws. Definitely want to make sure that you know where your studs are, so that you're going to attach the cabinets directly into the studs, obviously, because otherwise if you just go through the sheetrock, it's just going to be terrible. So while I put several screws in the back here, could still kind of move it this way away from the wall. So I'm going to try and connect it directly into the wall to keep it as snug as possible. You just have to find where the studs are. So yeah, that's what I like to see. This thing is not moving at all. This is great. So let's move on to putting the next cabinet over. So as long as your subfloor is level, then this should not be too bad. You're adding on the next one. Everything should still stay level. Then I could just go ahead and do the same thing. I mean, I had two studs that were accessible this time. So I just put two screws at the top, two at the bottom. I mean, that seemed to be more than enough. Then the next step is that I actually took the cabinet doors away, because I wanted to attach the cabinets together. So it's a matter of like clamping it together, pre-drilling my holes, and then using some kind of like nice looking brass screws. Then I can just install those, and it looks good and it keeps the cabinet really flush with each other. After that, I did the exact same thing with the last one, so I'm just showing you a time lapse because it's exactly the same process, but here it was. I had all my cabinets. The last step was to install that trim over kind of all the toe kick. So that's just a matter of like, cutting it to length and then installing it with, I don't know, remember, I think I used a finish nailer to fasten it to the actual, cabinet itself. And then the last step is that we still have this little corner exposed. So once I'm done installing the flooring, I will go back and install this little angle right over it, and it will be good to go. So there you have it. I do have cabinets in the kitchen. So again, thank you to cabinetselect.com for providing me with those cabinets, and I do invite you to go and check out their website if you're in the middle of remodeling a kitchen or building a new house or a new cabin. Next time I will keep making progress on this little kitchen by building my own shelves using butcher block. So click on the link that you see on your screen. That will take you to the next episode. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you there.